Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to video game news with a tiny bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel at this rate. Today is Monday, February 7th. One of the things I've decided I'm going to start doing is when I start these streams, I'm going to try and lean back a little bit more. I feel like I'm always leaning forward, particularly in pre-recorded videos, right into the microphone like this, and that's probably not a good thing. I don't know what the audio really sounds like to most people though. We had another thing. What do we call these? We another maintenance period with Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, but these updates are like ridiculously small. Half a meg. It's frankly laughable just how small that is. And yeah, I have no clue what they're really doing in these updates. Let's see, what does this say? Thanks to all of you, Master Duels reached 10 million downloads. As a token of our gratitude, limited time login missions that give you 1,000 gems are underway. For more details, check out the limited missions under missions. You can also claim your missions reward here. Also, it seems in the United States, this is interesting. This is popped up when we just first logged in too. It seems like Master Duel is now on at least Android cell phones in the United States. There seems to be some complaints, I think, around the ranking system, in that it probably should be rewarding you whatever rewards you would get going from Rookie 1 to Rookie 2 or Rookie 2 to Rookie 1, Bronze to Rookie 1. You should probably get those rewards when the rank resets, or it should just reset everybody back down to 0. Because there is this slight unfairness that you could potentially be at Bronze 5, get a bunch of rewards, get knocked down to Rookie 1, and then go back up and get all those rewards again. Whereas if you were, say, at Platinum 1, or just Platinum and, well, let's use Gold 1 as an example. If you were at Gold 1 and you dropped down to Silver 5, and then you went back up to Gold 1, you'd get less numbers of rewards and probably less amounts of rewards. This picture is very much a different color palette, certainly compared to every other one of these notifications. Very bright, and it says campaign almost as if there should be more to that. As an apology, we have sent items to players affected by this issue. Please claim them from the gift box. We'll see if I have any of that. For the accountability section, I will say I did nothing here, so apparently I was not affected, at least in the old system. The thing is, they probably should just give rewards to everybody to address the fact that that's a messed up system. What this is telling us here also is the level of generosity we can expect from Konami. 1,000 gems is 10 packs of cards. Theoretically, from what I've heard, there's over 10,000 cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if I fully believe that to be the case, because if there are over 10,000 packs, then where are the rest of the cards? Here, I'm seeing 6,750. The idea that there's another 3,250 cards is questionable. unless they're just like really behind and they're not releasing cards that are modern, and they've skipped over several years of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I think 10,000 was an estimate, and a bad estimate from someone else who was talking, that I heard that from. Seems like there's nothing here. For the accountability section, pretty much the day after I streamed on Friday, my computer randomly shut off. A couple days previously, there had been a power outage, and that's when I had realized my computer was not on a battery backup. And so I don't think the two are related, but I am keeping an eye on that as a possibility. But my computer randomly shut off, and I spent half a day trying to figure out what was going on because it was not booting anymore. And 1 or 2 of my 4 RAM sticks is completely broken. I know at least one, the computer will not boot whatsoever. Its companion, since they're dual channel DDR RAM sticks, may have problems too. Or it may just be a case that my computer just cannot maintain stability if it has 3 sticks in it. It's the motherboard instructions specifically say you really can't do that. Like there's so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the issue. Having removed both of the RAM sticks that are suspect, I'm now down to 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is still plenty, frankly. But that sucks, and I just built this computer in 2000, and for less than 2 years before RAM burns out, that seems unacceptable. I will try and get replacements, but who knows if they how that will go as far as all of that nonsense. So that slowed me down a little bit, but I have been able to play a little bit of Fallout 3 and actually get back on the main story of Fallout 3 a little bit. Do we have any solo today? No, good. We can just hop into ranked then. I am still getting this like horrific crick in my neck, which sucks. Also, I was having, for nearly a week and a half, I was having network trouble. I thought maybe there was a 1% chance it was my settings, so I disabled my settings for a couple days, then I streamed on Friday, then I re-enabled it. I haven't had any problems with after it being re-enabled. So my theory is that because there was snow and people weren't going to work, that there was some jerk, this is my figurative way of explaining things, is somebody at my ISP was playing around in production instead of development or experimental equipment, and resetting the production, this is the hardware and these are the settings we use because we know they're rock solid. And they were just resetting the equipment and the router. It's very possible that's not really what happened or what was going on. It is possible, certainly, that it could have been a faulty piece of equipment that they were just waiting on a replacement to show up, which still, that's just bad on my ISP for not having backup equipment. Or it could have been that somebody just needed more time to work on something, and maybe somehow the snow slowed things down enough that they could get that extra time to work on it. But yeah, over the weekend I've had no problems, so if all of a sudden I start having problems here, the problem now also is with this ISP. Technically, I may have signed a contract. I'd have to check, and they're going to give me all kinds of trouble, certainly, with trying to break a contract without paying early termination fees, even if it is 100% their fault. Um, let's see. Well, I guess we'll banish this card. But I am also in this weird position, certainly, where even a week and a half of poor performance on the ISP is completely unacceptable. So I severely doubt I'm going to stick with this ISP a year later. And sadly, everything is really just designed these days where you have to jump from one company to the next company just to even maintain a reasonable price. Otherwise, they're just going to raise the contract on you and not treat you well. Yeah. Okay, is there any other things we need to talk about? My computer right now is precariously balanced on its side on a very thin piece of furniture, so it could fall over at any point, but it's been precariously balanced for a while, and I think it's fairly secure. So yeah, I've been able to have the computer not do anything weird. I do need a new battery backup though, because the power went out again for half a second, and that time with it plugged into the right battery backup, all it had enough time to do while I was recording was shut down the computer instantaneously, because there's just not enough battery. Like, you really need to buy somewhere around 1,000 watts to 1,500 watt battery backup for a gaming PC. Otherwise, it's just gonna die immediately. And so you really can't go cheap on battery backups. At a certain point, the argument of whole home battery backups do make a lot of sense, but it doesn't seem like anybody other than Tesla have actually made an argument for that, and even Tesla's battery backups for the whole house are not really realistic in how much power you would want, because you kind of need 3 or 4 of those Tesla battery backups. I vaguely recall when I first looked at them, just for the kilowattage that a house would have. And if you're not going to do that, then, or if you're building a new house, what you would do is you would definitely separate. Wow, we are at 98 here. Yeah, by the end of today, almost certainly we'll be at 100 of the whole boss thing. What is it called? Battle Pass? And I suppose once you've maxed out the Battle Pass, you then have that extra benefit of not having to look at the Battle Pass go up every time you play a level. Yep. So, yeah, it's been quite the weekend. With the snow, I had to kind of shovel some snow and hurt my arm, and now it feels like that muscle is sore. Ooh, a dice. So this whole weekend has really just been a whole bunch of mess. I put kitty litter on the ice outside, and then it turned into a huge amount of mud, and that was a nightmare. So I definitely would not recommend that. I think that was one of those home remedies that you hear, or frankly some of these old wives' tales that used to have been told in sewing groups in the past are now what gets put on like Facebook under one of the 5-minute crafts videos or something like that. As far as just like videos that show you something that looks interesting, but often is the absolute wrong way to do things. So yeah, I'm going to not ever do that again, but in the process of all that mud, I got packages delivered in the mud, so now I've got muddy packages and muddy boxes I need to deal with, and just all kinds of problems on top of each other, just everything going wrong that could go wrong. Although in fairness, if this weekend is going to be the worst weekend of 2022, I'll take it, because nothing that major happened that was that annoying. It was just a bunch of little surprises. Yeah. I don't think I have anything really to say about Fallout 3 other than you probably should follow the main storyline of Fallout 3 to the point where you get to the Citadel and you get power armor training as quickly as possible. As someone who has done almost everything in the game before moving the main story along, I'm so overpowered I don't see a real reason to have to use power armor, whereas I imagine people that just ran through the main story quest would have really used power armor for the vast majority of the gameplay. And there is something I realized about the storyline of Fallout 3, slight spoiler. There's a project that is trying to purify irradiated water in Fallout 3 called Project Purity. At a certain point, some bad guys try to take over that project, and instead of just letting the bad guys take it over, to potentially, one would only assume, like, control who gets pure water, or strengthen their own forces. That's about as much as they think about as they explain it, is that is the thing that might happen if the guy goes in charge. My phone has apparently decided to unpause something weird. Sorry about that. What they should have done is they should have explained and written into a storyline, and this is not something that they ever say is true, this is just how I would have rewritten Fallout 3, is that for some reason irradiated water is not capable of being used to make nuclear bombs, since Fallout is set in the future after nuclear bombs have dropped. So if the bad guys potentially got access or control of Project Purity, they should have said, we're going to use it to make heavy water to thus make nuclear bombs, and then we're going to nuke everybody who doesn't agree with us. And then that would echo certainly the danger that this world had already seen, having the bombs already been dropped and nearly killed all of humanity. But they don't. They don't even begin to think about that as a great reason to really fight against the bad guys getting it, because the way it is designed effectively, it seems like Project Purity will just purify all the water in the entire land mass, and as such nobody would really control anything. It would just be everybody in the area would be healthier, which sounds like a very, very benign outcome. Now, maybe there's something that I vaguely remember about maybe the super mutants in Fallout 3 will die if the water isn't irradiated, Or, you know, it would be very believable if the mire lurks, or the mole rats, or the rad roaches, or any of the non-human enemies in Fallout 3 would die without the radiation. But none of the non-human enemies in the game are relatable to at all, so nobody really would care if they all died. Particularly the player, who's been spending hundreds of hours killing all of those creatures anyways. But yeah, that's about the only beat. There are a lot of plateaus and valleys, as it were, of action in Fallout 3. You get lots and lots of times in which you can just find dungeons and fight people and shoot people, and then there's just no conversation and there's no interaction or anything like that. It's just action, 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 very consistently. And then you have points where you get like inside the Citadel, and then you have to have the story go forward, and you hit this valley where there's just no action. It's just conversation on top of conversation on top of conversation, which it's not very balanced at all. If they want to give you a book like Skyrim certainly improved a lot on Fallout 3, although there's still a lot of room for improvement. Instead of giving you a book that you can take with you and read at your own leisure, like in Skyrim, everything that has any written dialogue is either a note, which most notes are very short, or for the most part, most of them are on computer terminals. So you have to be in a specific spot at a specific time, most of the cases, to actually decide to read something. And if you leave that area, well, then you can't access the computer terminal. It would have been fairly easy for the Pip-Boy, your user interface, to have the ability to download information or download notes. Actual physical books, like the comic books that you pick up, give you stat increases when you activate them, but you don't actually read them, which kind of sucks. You could definitely have seen a scenario where they could have had an artist write one issue of each of those comic books, and every time you read another one, you get one page, and after you get your stats up to 100, you can then like read the entire issue a second time. But actual physical pre-war books, as they're called, are just items. You can't read them. They don't have anything in them. It seems really weird. In a funny way, just like the Elder Scrolls game, where you always deal with an Elder Scroll in an Elder Scrolls game, there's an item that you deal with in Fallout that is probably not too different from that. And the Citadel itself, as a location, its courtyard looks extremely similar, not exactly, but extremely similar in layout to the Wizard's courtyard in Skyrim. There is also like some weirdness in Fallout 3, and I guess I did have more to say about it than I thought, in that there's like one weapon that will do electricity damage. There's like one weapon that will do fire damage, and the repellent stick kind of does a time delay kill damage to mole rats, and maybe there's something out there that does acid damage, but it's going to be like one weapon. Of all the named weapons, of which there's probably only about 20 to 25 in the entire game, it's very odd that they don't really have that much special about them. Whereas you can see how Borderlands took the idea of having fire damage and electrical damage and really took that to the next area. And for Fallout, you would you definitely are fighting robots that if there was a whole class of electrical guns, you'd have one available just whenever you fight robots. And then there's plenty of fleshy humans that could be damaged by acid. There's plenty of people that could also be damaged by like radiation if you had like radiation infused bullets, instead of trying to have like a water type ability or an explosive type ability. Robots would probably be also vulnerable to like an armor piercing if you didn't want to go with electrical. And then certainly lots of fleshy people are going to be affected by fire. There's a way certainly you could have found a balance there though, where like certain creatures like super mutants might be actually strengthened by radiation bullets, so you wouldn't want to use it against them. Or you could just have the weapons that do special effects be weaker than weapons that don't do special effects. Like there's a whole bunch of systems in Fallout, but none of the systems really go anywhere. The crafting weapon section doesn't go anywhere. There's actually a late game perk you get with the Game of the Year version when you get all the DLC that gives you all the schematics for crafting things, which you probably would have most of those anyways, but that certainly gives you an excuse to not go out of your way to try and find any of the crafting schematics. On top of that, though, you just would have to have the exact right kind and amount of junk in your possession to craft things. So even having all the crafting recipes, I took a whole bunch of junk that I've been just OCD collecting since the beginning of the game, put it all in my inventory, tried to craft everything, and out of 7 items that could be crafted, I could only craft 1 item once. So that's not actually useful as a system. It's clearly a system that could have been left on the cutting room floor, compared to like Skyrim, where the forging and crafting is a fairly big thing that you can do, even if it is a system that doesn't really integrate into much of anything. You're like leveling up your crafting skill to basically just make better armor and weapons in Skyrim, whereas in Fallout you don't level up crafting, or you don't have any skills like that at all, so you're not making better weapons that way. Your skills, you do have skills, they're just they don't go up based on you doing anything. They go up a certain number of points every time you level up, with 30 in the Game of the Year version being the max level you can do, which also will get all your skills up to 100. And since everything ends at 100, you might as well just take that as 100%. Let's do this. Okay. I'm going to activate this one because that'll put it back in the hand. Special summon this. Put this face up. Activate this. Yeah. And this also puts me in a weird... Fallout 3 also has put me in a weird position now that I can wear the armor, whether or not I actually want to wear the armor, because it's so incredibly heavy and you're still grabbing a whole bunch of items. And playing on very easy, it's not like I really need that. Probably should have destroyed Toon World over here, come to think of it. Yeah. If Toon World on the field is destroyed, destroy this card. Can attack your opponent's life points directly, like all Toon World cards can. Yeah. Yeah, I should have targeted that. That was stupid. Yeah, do I have anything else more to complain about Fallout 3? Nah, I think I've said enough for now. I will since I've done everything almost, except for the main story. Once I finish the main story, it will be a fairly short run to do the DLC and be done with the game. But I imagine there's easily another 15 to 20 hours of gameplay. To complain about Master Duel just a little bit, man. It is shocking how amazingly popular this game has become, and one, it really hasn't gotten me a lot of views on YouTube because I'm probably just a big fish in a huge pond, and two, Konami has really failed to come out with as big of a bang as they should have, because this should just be exciting everybody like crazy, but it's kind of hard to it's frankly kind of hard to opt to play this to play this game as much as one would like. Let's see. If I do this and choose this, then that's going to change this to a 4. And then if I do this, then I can special summon this as a 4, just sacrificing that. Face up. So this works both ways. That's interesting. I had not realized I could go both directions. And there's really no real reason why this needs to be at 8. Alright, well. Let's see how this goes. Let's see. See how this works. He's gonna banish another card. Nope. And we'll go ahead and put this back in our deck and draw another card. Apparently, OBS was originally programmed by a guy named Jim Bailey as a way to stream StarCraft. Um, which, I mean, every big software has to have some kind of origins. So that's not super surprising that it would be from a small, simplistic desire to grow to something much bigger. Let's see. Okay, at this point I don't think there's a lot of value in summoning another guy. We'll just see if he's got a trap that was Mirror Force. Well, we might be in trouble here. Let's see. Itch.io coming out with a hot take here on Twitter. NFTs are a scam if you think they're legitimately useful for anything other than the exploitation of creators. Financial scams are the destruction of the planet. We ask you to please reevaluate your life choices. Peace. Also, F any company that says they support creators and also endorses NFTs in any way. They only care about their own profit and the opportunity for wealth above anyone else, especially given the now easily available Discord concerning the problems of NFTs. And then another thing, how can you be so dense? I imagine they're getting trolled by people that are pro NFTs or legitimate NFT fans that don't see the problems with NFTs. There is, like, the phrase NFT is never going to succeed at this point. There almost certainly will be an abandonment of the phrase, and then they'll wait until things cool down and come back and call them something else. In that aspect, I still personally feel like there is room for some kind of blockchain technology to verify who has the rights to pictures. And I'm thinking of that very much from the idea of personal pictures, individuals, pictures of your children particularly. It would be very nice if you could have much tighter control over those pictures so that they don't just end up on the internet on some kind of crazy ad in the middle of Spain, just to pick a random country. That there was some kind of likeness protection around that. But how do you do that? How do you do anything blockchain related and not ruin the planet with the amount of energy it wastes is a real question. There may not be a real solution to that. And the work at the moment to do something good with blockchain authentication of images or any kind of media is not being put in the right places. It's being put in a whole bunch of get-rich-quick schemes. And the same thing is kind of true for cryptocurrency, is that cryptocurrency originally was, at its core, a system to guarantee or try to guarantee that you actually own the money you claimed you owned in a digital environment. But it quickly got replaced into a lot of speculation, for better or worse, probably for worse. Let's see. Video Games Chronicle has an article here. Today is the last day you could potentially buy Jump Force from before it gets pulled from sale. Although I have no idea why you would want to buy it now. This is a really poor way for Jump Force to really have advertised itself and then pulled itself from purchase. Like, they should have announced or at least teased that something more is coming, something better is coming to replace it. But even at that, there's no reason you should have confidence in the next thing when they're not really supporting the old thing. This clearly is a case where the rights owners of Shonen Jump must be, at least at some level, in part the actual creators of the Shonen Jump mangas, and they negotiated for a short couple-year contract. And as is often the case in copyright negotiations in Japan, there was no desire to renegotiate the contract after that. Of the shows, there's 57 characters from 16 different series. Some of them are fairly old. Dragon Ball's very old, but still very popular. One Piece is very popular. Naruto's very popular still. Bleach is still very popular. I don't think any of these characters have been, like, any of these shows have had major negative reaction. So it's not like there was one creator of, like, Naruto that turned out to be a drug dealer or something that would have really gotten their stuff pulled. I know there was something like that. There was something like that in Japan, yes, but I don't think it was a big thing, like a big Shonen Jump series that would have been included. I don't even remember it, the story. Yeah. There's been a couple of manga animators out there that have had some trouble, or had some cancel culture controversy like things around them. Japanese cancel culture is very different though, and it's usually they either have to be caught with underage children or drugs before they would really cancel them. You were seeing the opponents having network troubles. But to get back to Jump Force as a game, yeah, it's just really pathetic support. And it was never a very well received game in my book. So I would have liked to see them maybe try again, but maybe trying again was just too much for their effort. Moving on, Video Games Chronicles Platinum's new CEO wants to create larger and riskier games and hints at live service focus. Well, larger and riskier would sound good compared to Bayonetta, because Bayonetta as a series has oddly become under the thumb of Nintendo, with Nintendo funding Bayonetta 2 and 3 basically. So that series is kind of trapped. So if they did something that played a lot like Bayonetta but wasn't the Bayonetta story, but was still kind of fun like the Bayonetta story, I mean, I can't particularly hate on those thoughts. As far as live services go, I don't think the Bayonetta series if you're looking at from that comparison, which is the only comparison for Platinum games I could really think of to use, I don't see how you make a live series out of Bayonetta, because there was a very, like, it may have been an insane story, but it was a very linear story in Bayonetta 1. So just being told to go kill 100 angels for some quest giver in a World of Warcraft starring Bayonetta does not sound appealing. Now, I know Platinum Games have tried to do some more military kind of first-person shooter style games with people in like battle armor and things like that. So if they went more down in that direction, and they were just making something like a Destiny clone, that would be understandable. But yeah. But it may also be a case that their next game has some kind of live service element that is implementing a whole different concept. If there's one company that I really would have some level of faith around as far as implementing a new mechanic or new idea, it would probably be Platinum Games, because they did the same effectively with Bayonetta, and taking Dante's Devil May Cry character and taking it in a different direction. There is also a possibility that he's more interested in making some kind of live service around something like Wonderful 101. And that is kind of the danger, I think, in general around like video games. Like one of the dangers around small independent video game companies in the first place is that their next game could be something completely different from their current game. Alright, we can do this now. Activate effect. Select this. We change this. Now I think activate this. We are going to summon this and sacrifice this. And draw a card. I cannot activate this? Interesting. Why can't I activate this? That's weird. Oh, I thought I was going to be able to use that to bring back yet another character. This, the Tomorrow Children game is coming back in a very different way to Switch. It's dropping its free-to-play element. It's going to peer-to-peer instead of dedicated servers. It's a very different thing. And I imagine on a more meta level, just generally thinking, there's probably a lot of game developers out there who sold or lost the rights to games to the publishers, and then had the publishers also give them a lot of mandates that drastically changed the game. And so there probably are some game developers out there that say, hey, if we could get this game back, if we could change it, make some tweaks now that we have some feedback, or just make it the way we wanted to make it originally, maybe it would succeed. But in a lot of ways, that is also just kind of like sour grapes and an insane thing to actually consider doing. It almost certainly is smarter to move forward and not try and sell a game a second time. It's not like a terrible movie out there where you can just change the name of a game and because so many people bought it and nobody's going to notice. Video gamers are smart enough to recognize when they've seen a game before. You would have to effectively put in so much effort and money to reskin a game that you might as well once again just make a new game. Again, I am not sure why I can only pull out the 8. Well, we're gonna win here, so we might as well just do that. Or maybe we aren't gonna win here. Let's see. Video Games Chronicle says Techland has confirmed a number of Dying Light 2 fixes are coming this week. I think we've pretty much been told that already. Horizon Forbidden West PS5 is $10 cheaper when purchased on a browser, which seems very odd. And then these two characters, who probably play a bigger role in the story than people have admitted, are very blurred out. And oddly, they have like this symbol and this like chest plate. It's like a one boob armor plate that they've comically made bigger so it doesn't just look like boob armor. Looking at this image, I almost wonder, and this is just tinfoil hat speculation on my part, was there a concern, maybe even a legitimate concern, I won't immediately dismiss it as an SJW concern, was there concern about having two dark-skinned characters play a big role in a game that starred a red-headed white character up until this point? And so they puffed out her face and did bad visuals on her face as a distraction technique. If that was their plan, it's going to really fail, because you can see her face is, if anything, too skinny, and his face looks skinny too, so that still doesn't really address the issues. And personally, I just don't think there's enough room there for that kind of, for legitimate complaints. If you said in the sequel game that the main character is going to team up with some new characters, and because it's in a different region or a different tribe, they're going to be of different skin color. Like, now, as for why the price is different, I have no freaking clue. That seems very weird. Seems like a mistake or a negotiation issue. But yeah, I guess take advantage now if you want to. Although in all fairness, take advantage now to save $10 or wait 6 weeks, 6 months and get the game half off. I'd say wait 6 months and get the game half off. As a PC gamer, I don't even really have a choice. It'll probably be six months or longer before before it comes to PC. Moving on, Video Games Chronicle says, Phil Spencer says, the Activision deal is well beyond anything I've ever done. He doesn't believe the company is becoming a, quote, hyperpower. Phil Spencer has been doing a lot of interviews and podcasts, and if anything, this, as many podcasts as he's been on, it really highlights how going and doing podcasts is more valuable as attracting the attention of video gamers than it is to go on a website like CNN or MSNBC or have a like Larry King Live type interview, which frankly there's not too many of those shows that even exist now where you actively can have just a casual interview conversation and it isn't just a whole bunch of like hysteria and gotcha journalism and aggression. Because yeah, most 24-hour news places, it is more this antagonistic interview style now, and very few people are going to do the Barbara Walters style interview that is going to just let them say whatever they want, try to ask the questions as concisely and accurately as possible. Like, all of that seems to be happening in podcasting, which isn't 100% a good thing or a bad thing, but it's probably a little bit of a dangerous thing that if all news is all of a sudden going to get reported on from podcasts, and anybody who has a podcast is effectively going to have the same level of credibility as a journalist. But in all fairness, there aren't too many journalists that have credibility left anymore anyways. Like, journalists have ruined their own credibility as much as anything else. As directly for the Activision Blizzard deal, it's like, it's not worth even talking about at this point. It's been talked to. It's been talked to death, and nothing is going to change until it gets approved or gets rejected by the FTC or the DOJ. Apparently, the head of the DOJ worked at a law firm that worked for Microsoft for like 10 years. So effectively, he worked for Microsoft for 10 years. So he was going to have to stand down and recuse himself, it seems. And that's in part, I assume, why the FTC is heading up the investigation instead of the Department of Justice. Which it still doesn't really make sense, because the FTC, as the Federal Trade Commission, has not really been that active. Everything has been pretty much rubber stamped. Okay. We need a ritual monster. So we'll take that. And then we can go ahead and activate that. And we can go ahead and set that. And then we'll see what happens when we attack. Video Games Chronicle has an article here that Ubisoft is reportedly giving out NFTs to its developers, which, yeah, that seems like something you would do just to onboard people to the concept. You're not going to make your own employees buy NFTs to test out the product and dog food the product. Ubisoft's developers would just be subsidiaries of Ubisoft. It would be the next step to see Ubisoft giving it out to other developers that that it's not really affiliated with, or that it doesn't own, or if they start giving out NFTs to mainstream video game journalists or streamers or something like that, or even just random people. At the end of the day, Ubisoft Quartz and its NFT concept, like all NFTs, are going to get shouted down. So, like, with itch.io calling NFTs a scam, I think that probably is going to be a first marker of people intentionally coming out and getting brownie points by denouncing NFTs. I shouldn't have activated that yet. That was a mistake. Why did I put that in the inventory? I have no idea. I have no clue why I would have opted. Right. Let's see if we can just win here. 14. Okay. We're at level 100. That's it for the boss fight. And we've gotten 4 legacy packs. But I really don't think there's a reason why I would want to open the legacy packs yet. I'm gonna just wait till the next expansion happens. Moving on with news, Video Games Chronicle says the Hogwarts Legacy art book could point to a September release date, which I don't think an art book has to be that accurate as far as a release date. They could say any date and it could get pushed back. Some Dying Light 2 alpha footage from 2020 has appeared online. I don't know if that really matters that much, frankly. Like, unless there was something drastically better in the alpha footage, which, looking at these images, it doesn't really seem like that's the case. In a lot of ways, you could say all of Dying Light 1 is alpha footage of Dying Light 2, so take it from that perspective and make those comparisons, if those comparisons need to be made, in the sense that if there was something drastically worse in Dying Light 2 compared to Dying Light 1, those comparisons should be made. But I haven't heard anybody make that argument. All I've heard is people have either been just generally bored with the game or found it to be buggy. And honestly, I don't think there's that many people that are genuinely bored with the game. Apparently, the Batman Arkham games could be coming to Switch. There was another article that compared Luigi's Mansion to Pokemon Legends Arceus and showed that because Luigi's Mansion is this small tight corridor game, it can look a lot better visually, and they're making the argument that the hardware is restricting the quality of Pokemon Legends Arceus, which it's true. Certainly, the hardware of the Switch is restricting all the games on it, in the same way that all hardware will restrict the quality of all games on a console. But yeah, you can't really deny that the Switch was fairly underpowered even when it first came out. It's not going for the target audience of people who want to spend $700 on a console, certainly. But yeah, it was an underpowered device hardware wise when it came out day one, and it's only gotten older since then. The Arkham games at that low resolution will probably play fairly well. And we are at least away from the days in which a Batman Arkham game would have been made in a 2.5D art style for the weaker Nintendo consoles, and it would have been a completely different experience, because that game does exist out there, and it's pretty awful and easily forgotten. And that's definitely the way it used to be, is that you would have arcade machines make these very pretty looking games, and then the home console versions of those same games would look absolutely awful. And while we may start to see a slight case in which a few people try to... I did this wrong. Yeah, we may see a case where a few people try to make games that are mobile phone versions of the game. That does not seem like that is the direction most people are going. If you are going to make a mobile phone game, they typically are targeting the game in such a way that it looks very similar and parallel to the mobile phone versions, using low polygon chibi characters usually. Here we have another Video Games Chronicle. Says Google is reportedly quietly deprioritizing and rebranding Stadia, which we had kind of already talked about that. I wouldn't be surprised with every new year. There is a decision to drop a lot of efforts around Alphabet and Google. Well, this is going to be interesting because I really can't do anything here. I have exactly 2,000 life points. So unless I can gain 2,000 life points somehow. I'm gonna lose. We don't need to go over itch.io's statement again. Apparently 1-2-Switch is reported getting a sequel, which that's shocking. That would be, of all the games that should get sequels or re-releases or just continued releases of games, 1-2-Switch This is not a good one to have picked. I almost wonder if the idea would have been to bring back like the Wii Sports. But if you were gonna do that, why not just re-release Wii Sports and just call it Switch Sports? Like, wouldn't that have been easier? Alright, I'm gonna come over here and let's just receive everything. And that way we don't have to look at the Dual Pass leveling up anymore. I'm hoping. Meanwhile, that daily quest is done. This daily quest is done. And so we need to win one more ranked. And I don't know if there are only 2 secrets or if you can only have 2 secrets at a time. That's done also. Yeah. We may open just straight up 100 packs at the next expansion. That would be a little weird. And let's see what Pot of Greed sounds like. Alright, well, we'll try with Pot of Greed as our new mate. I honestly just don't think, particularly now, kids would want a sequel to 1-2 Switch because there's plenty of other games out there already. Like, so why would you pick something that really would only sell well or even be wanted at all as like a day one game? Like, the trick of making a mediocre game and releasing it day one of the launch of a console, or including it with the launch of a console, can only be pulled off when it's day one. But it's been several years. Like Club 51, 52, whatever that game is a way better game out there to get used, get a used copy of, compared to like getting a 1-2 Switch. And I doubt there are that many kids out there that have just played everything on the Switch and would desperately want to play a 1-2 Switch sequel. Like, if there are kids out there that have played everything on the Switch, they're probably moving over to a PlayStation or an Xbox at this point. There's just so many games these days, and there's just never going to be enough time. Even as somebody who basically plays video games as their only career, like, there's not enough time to play all the games. Moving on, Dr. Dre's GTA Online mixtape is available to stream now, if that's something you care about. I don't personally care about that. And apparently, Sony is still negotiating the PS VR2 tech, it claims the eye tracking firm. Which, wow, you would think that you would have had those negotiations set in stone before you you announced your PlayStation VR 2. If anything, that implies that the tech won't be included and Sony is just pretending to negotiate, or negotiating for some upgrade in the future to a PlayStation VR 3. Here we have a decent amount of games that came out over the weekend. So here we have a game called Let It Slide, which looks like it's an infinite runner. This is the one we dragged the mouse. I think we had already looked at this. And am I signed out of Steam? Yes, I am. I'm signed out of Steam because I got signed out of everything because I took the RAM out of my PC and tried to reinstall and repair Windows when I thought my Windows installation was broken, until I realized it was the RAM. There was a problem. I wish there was a better checklist out there of just like follow these steps in these exact orders to diagnose the problem on your computer. But there really isn't as much that. It's much more of a art, and you just kind of have to feel your way through it a lot of times. And even Windows doesn't have something like that. Because even like Windows, even when I took out the one bad stick of RAM, Windows was not able to say, hey, you know what, you need to take out this other stick of RAM because your system can't handle that. I even upgraded my BIOS, which in upgrading my BIOS, I went from being not capable of installing Windows 11 to capable of installing Windows 11. Am I going to install Windows 11? I doubt it. If I am going to install Windows 11, I really would like to do like a fresh install and start over from scratch, because yeah, there's some problems certainly in the way Windows is installed right now. It's relying on files across 3 different hard drives for no good reason. Of course, it would be a hassle to do a fresh install also. But yeah. Regardless, by changing the RAM and changing so much, the clock also got out of alignment, if that affected anything. A lot of things have been signed out and I had to re-sign back in. Although how many things I'm really signed into is not particularly that many. Anyways, if anything, I'm moving over, or I'm beginning of what will probably be a multiple year project to move over to just using the Brave browser to reduce ad blocking, to reduce tracking even more. But I'll have to stick with Chrome for the live streams because I've just got too many extensions on Chrome, and I don't think you can just I don't think you can yeah, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I don't think you can just copy every extension from Chrome to Brave, even though I think both of them are Chromium based. And there is some small benefits, I think, around using Chrome. Let's see, let's do this now. I'm either gonna lose here or I'm gonna win here. And it's gonna be lose. Alright, well, this Sir Impedia as a game does not look interesting. Quest for the Grails, misspelled Grail. Looks a little too pixely and a little too zoomed in for its pixeliness. 4 players, racing and platforming. Very odd that it would be so so zoomed in when it's for 4 players. But yeah, Quest for the Grail, I'm gonna say no to also. And my only hope is that this actually can summon itself and destroy this card. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Beholgar, which looks like an old NES game, but it's already mixed, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to say no to that also, which is a shame because it looked slightly interesting. Here I'm getting defeated still, horribly, unless he's running out of cards. Which he is, technically. He's at 20 and I'm at 35, but yeah, I would need more help here. Here we have a game called Rebellion, a rogue Souls-like game. Looks like it's basically a dungeon crawler to me. Nothing particularly interesting there. $3.99 is fairly cheap. Also, bunch of languages. Here we have Cyber Tennis, which I don't think this is a visually polished game. It looks like it's kind of all over the place visually. And I don't really see the idea of having a game called Cyber Tennis per se instead of just having regular tennis. Even in regular tennis games, you can have streak lines and people are willing to suspend their disbelief. I don't see a reason that to need to have robots and drones. So yeah, visually, it seems weird. And oddly, this is a VR game, too, which I get no feeling whatsoever it's a VR game. Like, it does not look like a VR game in the demo. Next we have Frog Fight, which looks like nothing. And here we are getting defeated. Yeah, if I'm going to cover video game news, I'm basically only going to be able to show snippets in the middle and the beginning and the end. This is ridiculous, though. Even when you're at 100, you still get brought to the screen. And this guy makes a sound effect that's kind of annoying. Will get annoying, certainly. Here we have a game called Fuktopia, is how I'm going to pronounce it, which looks like a beat 'em up. I vaguely recall this game, the first one of these, coming out just a couple months ago and it not being particularly well received. Looking at it, it doesn't seem like they've done anything to improve the situation either. So, yeah, this is an easy no. Here we have Bikini Armorer Explorers, and it's tagged with nudity, so let me make sure it's YouTube family friendly in the screenshots. This came out the 4th, so this still would have been weekend adult games releases. So my theory that everything gets crammed in the weekend is still there. Actually, of all the screenshots, only maybe 2 of them are lewd, and well, one of them is fairly lewd because you have a character that is basically wearing pasties. The other one just has, the other character just has significant underboob. Yeah. The rest of the game here, though, is your standard RPG Maker game with kind of nothing of interest there. It's selling for $15. Yep. So, I am unimpressed, to say the least, in what it looks to be offering. Yeah. Seems like some scenes in the game will appear bare and sexually suggestive content that is not suitable for minors. Please decide whether to play or not, is the description. As far as the mature content, the scenes appearing bare is an interesting way to phrase it, because it's not saying the people will appear bare, or their bare skin will show. It's saying the scene itself will be bare, which definitely screams a non-native English speaker wrote that description. Next we have Kamikaze Komiti Oka 2, which definitely looks like it might have been a game that's been censored. What's weird here is you have a very plump, let's say, character, and you don't see that fetish served that often in anime games. It's fairly common in other forms of animation, but games have stuck to a much more traditional, this is going to be a skinny, super skinny Japanese person like most Japanese people. This one's $11.99, still doesn't look particularly interesting. And this only contains strong language. Well, I almost assumed that there would be an uncensored patch out for this. That being said, it still just looks like a mostly RPG Maker game. We generally plump, let's continue to use that phrase, characters are missing in video games quite a lot. Like, particularly when you're getting into the obscenely morbidly obese category. Like, whereas other forms of anime kind of embrace the grotesquely obese character and show them off on at least a few occasions. If you do see something that is hugely fat, it's usually in some kind of like zombie game where it is totally done to show a disgusting monster. And in fairness, Western movies kind of take that same track also, that if you're going to see somebody who's up there in the 400-500 pound range, they are depicted as a freak, as some kind of monster, often not human to begin with. So yeah, there is a slight difference. I mean, you can't really account for taste, so it's very believable that there's very little desire to see very fat people, characters in video games or in fiction. certainly. But there is also kind of a difference between accepting or encouraging real humans to be fat and then allowing an artist to draw somebody in an unhealthy way, too. Like, and if you take that even to a different direction, there's kind of a lack of people in the past couple decades that even have like big scars on their face or deformities or anything like that. When you think about like the original Total Recall movie, where there's the mutant in the stomach of a character, that's something you would have seen in a game like Smash TV, and now everything has just become so focused on being realistic in video games that we don't have the crazy mutants that often. You'd think that in Borderlands there'd be two-headed mutants running around all the time, but then like Borderlands had the dwarf midget characters. I think they literally called them midgets in Borderlands 1, and by the time Borderlands 3 is coming out, they're basically apologizing for having animated characters called midgets by people who were totally the type of people that would use that phrase, whether appropriate or not. In order to appease to the average person, games and art as games as art, has dangerously slid into becoming a ugly mix of mud, in that everything looks exactly the same. You look at first-person shooters, for instance, the military first-person shooters, they look all exactly the same. The characters all look the same. There's nothing different or attractive from it. And in fairness, the last time Battlefront or Battlefield, whichever it was, Call of Duty, tried to have a female character with a artificial arm, it didn't work for that game series, so that certainly sent the message to not try anything different or look different. Although the problem with that was Call of Duty has always at least visually tried to look realistic, whereas Borderlands, it would make a lot of sense for people to go in wilder directions. Handsome Jack, his face is like stapled on to, he has like a fake face stapled onto his head. That's about the weirdest bad guy that I can think of that's come out in the past 10 years is Handsome Jack. And even in that, Handsome Jack actually looks kind of handsome. He's kind of a good looking guy. He's not a big weirdo. Brock has a big like scar over his face. Or Brick, what was his name? It was Brick. And Brock is from a cartoon, or Brock Lesnar, the wrestler. But I guess that's a really long way to say there's too many pretty people in video games. I wonder how they depicted the big fat guy in the new version of Dune that came out. I didn't watch that. But yeah, you look at the original Dune movie and just how there was that big fat disgusting character that was basically the human equivalent of Jabba the Hutt in the first Dune. Anyways, I kind of went on a rant there, and we don't need to. Here we have a hidden object game, Magical City Detective. from Domini Games for $13.99. English, allegedly full audio. I'm not sure there actually is a hidden object element to this as much as other mini games, but I still would pretty much just call this one of those hidden object games. There would have been a time where I might have considered something like this, but nowadays these kinds of games, I've seen so many of them that I can just in my mind dismiss all of them. Here we have a Boulder Dash clone, I guess. From the looks of it, it certainly doesn't look that interesting. And what's funny is it's called Boulder Dash, one word, although it's two words in the title, but it's really showing you Dig Dug as a game. I don't know if there is a game called Boulder Dash that's like that. I know that there's a word game called Boulder Dash, I think. But yeah, not familiar with it. Here we have a game called Last Gary that looks like a Chinese asset flip. Probably top-down twin stick shooter zombie thing. $3.99 English and Chinese. Here we have a game called Square Man, which does not look like anything I would want to play. If anything, I assume that this is like Jumpman. Yep, you have to jump up and down. Or Jump King, whatever that game is that's fairly popular. Activate this. Cancel this. Activate this. And then activate this. Special summon that. Activate that to return that to the hand. And destroy one card on the field. Let's see if he can fight that. Alright, well that still works fairly well for me. Here we have a game on Steam called Bug Force, which looks like nothing. We may get lucky here. There may not be a single game worth even putting on the fall list, so I won't have to leave a bunch of games tabs open for later. Here we have a game called Cyberpunk Girls, which from the looks of the thumbnail definitely looks like it's probably a low effort game trying to sell on lewdness. It looks like it's a half visual novel, half top-down twin stick shooter. Cyberpunk as a phrase now in my mind just reverts back to the general cyberpunk movie genre and has nothing to do with Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk Girls here is $5.03 in several languages. It says the game contains blood, gun violence, and general sexual content, which is an interesting argument. What is general sexual content? Because if I was to define general sexual content, I would have to say, well, there would be unusual sexual content and then general sexual content, or abnormal sexual content and general, if you're going to split categories there. And in the West, in the United States, the puritanical United States, general sexual content maybe means hugging, once or kissing once at most, because generally in video games or movies or stories, that's about all that is shown. Whereas if you subdivide it between all the content that has actual sex in it and split general between general and unusual, then are we talking missionary style instead of like hardcore bestiality, bondage, or something like that? Like that line could be divided in 100 different ways, because there really is no general concept. If you think of what a general store is, a general store has a little bit of everything. Is that how I'm supposed to take it? That it has a little bit of everything? I doubt it. Well, that probably lost the game for me. That's a really weird phrase to use. I don't think I have a real answer to what it is, but I assume, I mean, when somebody's being obtuse in its description, you have to assume the worst, and that there actually is nothing but a few cleavage shots at most. Maybe some suggestive dialogue. This Carrot Heart game, it's tagged as a roguelike. To me, it looks more like a top-down twin-stick shooter dungeon crawler. What's weird here is it says there's only 18 types of enemies, and when you look at the items and the number of items you can hold, it just all seems fairly limited for a game, and possibly limited because they're sticking with this rabbit theme too much. So I think I would have to say no to this. I don't think that there's enough of a game there. Here we have something called In the End, which looks just like an asset flip first person shooter. Early access $10.99. Here we have Squirrels Are Going Nuts, which looks like a Bomberman clone. $6.99, several languages. Here we have the Tribulation Entanglement. This looks like an interesting art style, but potentially a bad art style for the gameplay, as for a side-scrolling 2D platformer, and for something that's going to have a black background like this. You're going to have to really hope that this stood out, the foreground stood out way more from the background than it seems like it would. There, we lose. You took quite a while to defeat me there. Like, there is basically nothing we need to do at the moment. Like, we've already gotten the daily quest, I think, cleared. And I have no daily quest to do solo modes. So I should just consistently play ranked and get the wins I can get, go up the ranked level, and move on. Let's see. We don't have a lot of Gametsu articles. A game called Scaffold Shrouded Insanity is coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on February 11th. This might be a Castlevania clone, but also seems incredibly late to be announcing a game. So I suspect that this is probably a pretty short game. It's not quite a Castlevania game in the looks of it. And it says you're fighting 4 knights and confronting a king. So it feels like you're doing a limited number of conflicts as we look at the blurred out trailer there. Yeah, I would not be enthusiastic around that. But we'll see. I don't even know if that was coming to PC though, so. Start with this. Let's go ahead and choose Alright, well, that's not too bad. Gamatsu has this week's Japanese game releases with Corvus, which that was a game that was announced. Really never showed enough about the game for me to understand it. And also My Next Life as a Villainous game. This is based on a manga where this girl was playing a visual novel, and she'd played it so many times she knew all the endings of the visual novel. Then she magically gets put in the visual novel. She may have even wished to be put in the visual novel, but instead of being put in the visual novel game and having to live it out herself as the hero, she has been put in the role as the villain. And the villain at every single ending always has something horrific done to her, or she gets killed or something. So she is now trapped in this conundrum where she has to try and change the outcome and not do all the evil things throughout the life of this villainess, so that people actually like her at the end of it. And so she's living the life of a bad person, trying to rehabilitate the outcome, which is an interesting premise that maybe doesn't get fully implemented on. I haven't heard people talking about the anime much lately. And the full title is My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom. And then the game has the subtitles, Pirates That Stir Waters. Other physical games coming out is A Plague Tale Innocence, and Mina No Curling. Which, yeah. And then there's a very long list here of digital games. Interesting Pajama Sam games showing up on the Switch. I wonder how they have modified things so that actually works well. Because Pajama Sam games would have been Scum VM engine games, basically. And so that would have been a point-and-click adventure game, so you're going to have to put a cursor around that, I think. Of course, maybe they don't have to put that much work into it. There's actually several games here that are from Humongous being released on the same day, which maybe they should have staggered their releases. Kingdom Hearts also coming out. the cloud version of Kingdom Hearts for Steam, of course. It does kind of feel like we're getting closer to the point where we're going to have actual announcements and actual releases on a weekly basis. Video games do feel like they are coming back. But I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of dries up in spots. Moving on, Demon Slayer has a Switch teaser trailer, TV commercial, and screenshots for the Demon Slayer fighting game. So they're still advertising that quite a bit as it's about to come out. And then a company I've never heard of, Viking, announces a new synth-drawing action game called Abyss Memory, Fallen Angel, and the Path of Magic for Switch and PC. Synth Memory as a synth memory action game is an interesting way to describe something. What does that really mean? I have no idea. Though. Let's see. See if this trailer. Yeah, this little angel reading a book. It's reading a book. Reading a book. The angel falls from heaven. And see, that's really just a teaser video. So yeah, I have like no... This is making an odd sound. I want to go back to the monolith. It was quiet. A synth memory action game. That descriptor definitely sounds more like fluff than something real. Alright, well. The only thing that could save me is if I could actually get my guy out there, spend 2,000 to destroy everything, and then maybe I would win. Yep, I'm doomed. But there's really no reason not to set the card and end the turn. Gamatsu has the same thing. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duels downloads of top 10 million. That's a 6 million increase in 10 days. Since I put these custom loading screens as custom thumbnails on my channel, somebody put a comment on one of the videos as to which character one of these characters was, not this one. And I honestly had no idea. I had to eventually, after spending way more time on it than I should have, do a Google reverse image search to try and figure out who the characters are. It wasn't something recognizable like Shadal or Blue Eyes White Dragon or the Dark Magician. There's, of these Yu-Gi-Oh! Loading screens, half of them have characters on there that I don't recognize. But yeah, you can see now it's basically every console and mobile stores. See, Americas were added on February 3rd, so actually it's been out on mobile stores longer than I thought. This 1,000 gems, is it a one-time 1,000 gems, or is it 1,000 gems every day for every day you load in? Because that's kind of a big difference. Yeah. It may very well have only been 1,000 gems for that one time. So that's not particularly generous. 10 packs is nice, and it does set a nice precedent that maybe they'll give out rewards more consistently as things go on, but that's not super generous. Like, compared to my favorite game, Destiny Child, every day on Destiny Child you have dailies that give you enough to do a 10 pull of characters. Well, I'd say at least half, maybe 5 pull instead of a 10 pull every day. But it's every single day, so over the course of the week you definitely have tons of the premium gems in Destiny Child just by doing the daily quests. Whereas doing the daily missions here, you're getting pathetically small amounts. And since that's all this game has is pulling cards, you really need to get the free-to-players to keep on playing until they potentially convert to the pay-to-winners by giving a lot of free gems. If this is a game that is going to try and make money on the whales, I don't know how many whales are still around these days, as there are so many in-app purchase games targeting whales. It's just not going to work, though. The competitive nature of the game will fall apart if it's just 100 people playing the platinum, or 1,000 people in platinum, and then everybody else is gone. Even the very niche Destiny Child game, which probably does have less than 500 whale-like players, doesn't have enough where they could actually survive on that money alone. You don't want to have to make games that rely on whales, because when the whales go, you don't have anybody to really replace them. Moving on, Gamato has an article here. Grand Kingdom is going to be delisted from the PlayStation Store on February 28th in Japan. These servers are going to close on March 29th. This is not a game I even recognize, so I imagine that's not going to affect me in any way. And then they have yet another announcement of Demon Slayer launching June 10th worldwide. I think this may be the first time they've actually set a date, but maybe not. Oddly, I feel like by the time this game comes out, you almost have to put out DLC to update what the characters look like, because there's just so much that I think has changed in the anime. Anyways, we're back to this game. I really would like to give this game a pass, but the black background on the black foreground is just too much. And this definitely looks like it's a Metroidvania clone. $13.49, English only. You know what? I think I'll give this a follow. Just to be certain. Whereas Battlefield Cars here, we can immediately dismiss. It's $4.24. Oh, yeah, I had to reinstall my mouse driver software for some reason too, and like, because my magnifying trick apparently my magnifying trick to open and close magnifier only closes the magnifier if I disable user account control, which I would have done a long time ago and not realized it. So I have had to go into the registry and edit and disable user account control. Otherwise, user account control stops it from running task kill to kill the task, which in all fairness, that's probably a good thing, but it doesn't solve the problem that I wanted to solve. And all of this really is a kludge solution to make the magnifying app on Windows open the way I want it to open and close when I hit a button. Really, those should just be built-in features. Right. Let's do this and see what happens. This game, the Fox's Drawing World, is just a drawing game. It may not actually be the worst ones of these we've seen, because we haven't really seen a lot of them, but it's not particularly good either. This thing is reducing my damage quite a bit, but whatever. Next we have Total Catastrophe, which looks like nothing of interest. $6.59. English, allegedly full audio. And then we have a Zombie Shotgun Rampage, which looks terrible. And see, I kind of feel like I might be moving a little fast here, but honestly, by the time we get to the end, it will probably not be. It'll still probably be a 3-hour stream. I also need to open up those muddy packages I talked about at the beginning of the stream, so I'm taking some extra time today to maybe try and assemble some furniture, or at least remove the furniture pieces from the packages. And yeah, I'm in the middle of this giant Lego table design, and I've got boxes of furniture all over the house, on top of Lego all over the house, which it's out of control, and the goal of the project is to regain some control there. Yeah, as for this game, 7 Days to End With You looks like a very poorly animated visual novel, but not even that, because it doesn't look like there's actual readable text here. Puzzle game, you have to guess the language and decipher it, which means the story almost certainly would be terrible. I mean, that there was a game like that where it was a translation game, and it didn't sell very well. It came out a year or two ago. But yeah, I think this is them literally just trying to hide the fact that it's terrible writing. It has to be terrible writing, because no way that in 7 days game time you'd be able to translate things and have deep conversations. And on top of that, like when you're looking at the amount of symbols being shown, it is an incredibly small number of symbols too. So unless each symbol represented very complex concepts, this is going to be maybe 5 words at most. Yeah. So I have to say no to that. Next we have Mortals and Monsters Blood Orc, which is some kind of tower defense game trying to pretend to be something else. But that's definitely going to be no. $11.99 English, allegedly full audio. I doubt it. That was rather expensive too. Here we have a game called Enemy Remains, which is a top-down twin-stick shooter. Every screenshot I'm seeing here fails to really show good details, so it's not a very good looking game for a top-down twin-stick shooter. This is the only image where I can even make out the character, but I don't even know if this character is supposed to be this character or if it's a different character. I don't know if these are supposed to be kids or it's just a different art style. And if I'm having to come to the trailer to see it, you probably already lost me. Yeah. This just doesn't feel like it has enough visual polish. Plus $3.59 is a little too cheap for any game that is supposed to actually be good. Next we have Imperial Arms Curse of the Conqueror, which looks like another RPG Maker game of no interest. What's weird specifically about this is how the fight scene seems to be at a lower resolution and framed in, and then you have the screenshot framed in with a black border that's a different size black border than this. So either they can't make screenshots or the game is all over the place with resolutions. Free to play, English only. Even at that, that's going to be a no. I have no idea what this guy's strategy is. He's just filling up my field with 0 tokens. Let's see. The tokens stop you from targeting any other field monster on the field, which that doesn't seem like that's much protection. So this guy has some kind of ability where he's doing 1,000 damage, and he can do that twice. And that's it. I don't think this person maybe knows how this deck works any better than I do. You have a pendulum card here with 0, which that's interesting that you go down to 0. Next we have a game on Steam here called Astroneum, which doesn't look interesting. $2.69 English, Portuguese, Brazil. Then here we have a probably Chinese stock market simulator, if I was to guess. That's what I would assume, or some kind of shopping game. It's $1.39 Chinese only, of course, so can't put that on the follow list. Is this guy really gonna do anything? Because he's really taking a sweet time. Alright. Cannot do anything. Next we have a game called Basketball_ST, which looks like absolutely nothing. Free to play, Chinese only. I haven't really been keeping an eye out since the Olympics are happening in China right now, whether there would be more or less video games released from Chinese developers on the Western world Steam page. I imagine it wouldn't affect too much, but maybe a bit of a slowdown. I'm not really feeling like there's a ramp up. This Galaxy Citizen, again, feels like an acid flip garbage game. 1999, laughable. We are about to lose again. My deck right now really is just a one-note trick. But I'm not so desperate as to think that playing my Exodia deck would do better for me. So you just kind of have to bang your head against the wall and hope you get 2 or 3 victories in 3 hours, which is sadly become my average for playing collectible card games and not paying attention. Although I am kind of paying a little bit more attention here with Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just that I just don't have a deck built. Here we have a game on Steam here called Sabbath, misspelled. Again, looks like an acid flip horror game. Doesn't really seem like there's anything to it. $2.99, English only. Here we have Hidden Ghost Town 2, which I guess this is a hidden object game. Yeah. $5.99, several languages. Here we have Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. I believe this was released on console like 6 months ago and was very poorly received as just kind of a nothing story. In a funny way, playing as a werewolf and having werewolf powers is just not enough to interest people. Honestly, I don't even know if it's enough to play as a vampire and have vampire powers. This is definitely one I want to put on the fall list though, because maybe there will be some cheaper price here. You can see that the Earthblood Champion of Gaia edition is $3.49. There's no multiplayer here, it's just a single story. So at this lower price, maybe standards will be lowered enough that people like it. I wouldn't be surprised though that even at a cheaper price, it still doesn't cut the mustard. Yu-Gi-Oh! Definitely feels like a card game that is in danger of letting players waste the other player's time a little bit more. It feels like there should be some detection here that just says you have to attack, you have to win, or lets the other player just surrender if they're going to lose. Because even in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cartoons, there were plenty of times when the players would just surrender because they knew they were going to lose. So there's should be some way you could surrender and not be completely penalized by surrendering, which right now, surrendering at any point in the game removes all experience that you would gain from that. Arguably, it'd be very easy to just say, of the 480 seconds you have, if you've spent at least 80 seconds in the game, you get the XP. Because at that point you will have at least played the game. Next we have a game called Ultimate Vitality of Imagination. Oh, speaking of collectible card games, I should mention that Hatsune Miku is doing like some kind of collab with Magic the Gathering. I assume these are going to be like special cards that they sell either in a very expensive bundle or individually as those secret, what were those called? Secret packs, secret cards or something. That was something that Magic started doing about a year or two ago, where they started being really, really expensive. Hatsune Miku, though, as a cards that would have Hatsune Miku or anime characters in general in Magic the Gathering, just visually does not match, and there's no way it ever will. So it's a dumb collaboration, as dumb as the My Little Pony things, but at least the My Little Pony things made sense because Hasbro also owned My Little Pony. This is some kind of Chinese game for $9.99. Doesn't look interesting. Yeah. It probably stabs Shadowverse in particular in the heart, or Yu-Gi-Oh! In the heart, for there to be a crossover with Hatsune Miku with Magic the Gathering. Although, I would be very pleased to just see Yu-Gi-Oh! Never do any kind of crossover things anyways. It doesn't really need to do it. They've already got their own established cartoon. However, Race here is nothing of interest also. So just stick to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff. If Yu-Gi-Oh! Was going to do a card that was kind of like Hatsune Miku, they probably should just make their own card that's an homage / parody of it. This Gods of Sand is some kind of gladiator management game, so you're not actually controlling the gladiators. There might be something to that. $9.99 English, Portuguese, Brazil. Might be something to that. I'll put it on the follow list. But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has maybe not 100% consistency, but I would say at least 90% consistency in all of its visuals. So it would be fairly wasteful to come out with something that looked visually completely different. And if anything, I think there is probably a matter of pride in the visuals styles of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, enough that they wouldn't just put something completely different in it. Let's see how this goes. Killed my card, but I think that'll work fine. Next we have a game on Steam here called Astronauts, which looks like nothing. 68 cents. Interesting. I didn't know you could get down to 68 cents. English only. That's going to be a no. Here we have something called Little Imps, a dungeon builder, which looks like a Dungeon Master clone, but is already mixed. So I probably should just dismiss it now. I actually want to do some research here though and see what the problem is with it. $11.99 online co-op and single player. Visually looks like Dungeon Master. Let's see. So we have one here saying, much of what bothers me is easily fixable, and the game would easily be recommended. The game is marked casual, it's just true frustrating to play right now due to long timers that the building has on everything. 1 hour to mine gems, 30 minutes for gold, 60 seconds for a single tile of a wall. There's no microtransactions, even though the game is built around a very microtransaction / mobile experience. Here's another review that says the game heats up the CPU. This game says it's been abandoned since March 2019. So, did they just take it out of early access? That's what I'm thinking. Is that this game was labeled early access, it's been taken out of early access, but no real updates have been made. Let's see. Yeah, I think I have to say no to this game. Too. It had such a bad launch that if it wasn't going to have that bad launch, it would have addressed that issue earlier. Activate this. If anything, that also really highlights how it doesn't matter if you label something early access or not. You only have that first opportunity to make a first impression. And if you blow it, you might as well just give up. You might as well like completely reskin the game or try to sell it under a different name. Or you know what? Really giving up is probably your best bet because people will just find out. The one thing here that's missing is upfront. If there had been something here saying, our sincere apologies for the early access. The game was not finished and we released too early. We believe we've now fixed it. The thing here they can't do is get rid of these reviews, and that's just going to hurt them terribly. And that's a good thing that they can't get rid of the reviews. I literally saw something on Reddit, and I don't know if this is true or not, where somebody put a 1-star negative review saying the person stole their copyrighted art and put it on a t-shirt or something, and the company changed the review to a 5-star I love this product, works great review. And like, what legitimate review system out there possibly would let the owners change the reviews? That's insane to even let that happen. And you talk about fake reviews when people can straight up change them. Change the number of stars, change what is being said. At a certain point, that crosses the straight up line of fraud. That is, I think, the legal definition. That meets the legal definition of fraud when you're completely and maliciously misrepresenting somebody, saying they said something they didn't say. That is fraud, I would say. Not a lawyer, but I think that's a pretty clear-cut case. Moving on, we have Styx Combat Devolved, which I don't know why anybody is trying to make Styx games anymore. They were a meme or gag probably 7 to 8 years ago and haven't come back in fashion since. $4.99 English only. It's just not something that's gonna ever come back or sell. You have something called Gordon's Stream Man. It was my turn, so I needed to play. This Gordon Stream Man, again, looks like just asset flip garbage. $4.24 English and Russian. It's probably just a low effort Russian game, which we haven't seen a lot of those today. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Annual Intruders, which the idea of somebody breaking into your house or you breaking into somebody's house on an annual basis is confused, to say the least. The only thing I guess you would assume is that this is kind of like the Purge concept, or it's the bad guys breaking into a different house annually. That would make more sense. Annually, a game is published to the deep web. First person to beat the game wins a cash prize. What does that have to do with home invasion? They have to play the game on PC whilst trying to beat back the others trying to stop you by sending intruders. Well, we've seen that kind of same hacking concept where you have to hack a computer while people are trying to come arrest you or shoot you or something. But yeah, this really just looks like a worse effort on that concept. And then we want to talk about really ugly. Here's something just called Normal Shmup, Shoot 'em Up. Absolutely hideous. $1.99 English. Here we have something called My Truck Game, which just by the title I assume is garbage. Early access, $5.59 English only. And then it seems like we only have one GameDeveloper.com article in total. Final Fantasy XIV boosted Square Enix's fortunes in 2021. Yeah, at this rate, this may very well be our last game, and might be able to win here. And see, the rest of these I think are just fall list games. So, like this game, I have to leave up because when I log in, I want to stop following it. Because clearly this has not gotten but 6 reviews, and so it's not relevant enough as an RPG game. It seems like the only thing that was a gimmick here is that there's a character that's a brick wall. Micro Soccer as a concept. I think we can probably say no to this also. Like, I don't need to play an old 8-bit soccer game to say old 8-bit soccer games exist. So I'll get rid of that. This is still not working for me. Next we have Miasma Caves, which this game looked like it might actually have been an interesting take on a Minecraft clone that might be going in a different direction. I'm surprised nobody has actually successfully made something that is a little less blocky, more realistic, but is actually still around the idea of mining and crafting. Although, arguably, I'm not sure how much of Minecraft is still popular for the base Minecraft game versus just the fan base and the maps and the mods that exist out there. I've been watching a couple of like Sky Factory type mods that have changed some things up and made new versions of that lately, so I've been getting back into watching Minecraft, and I do seem to like to watch a couple of Minecraft series fairly frequently. Alright, so now we had a refresh where duel and ranked 3 times, win a duel and ranked, spectate a duel live. I should have spectated the duel live before this reset. Like, it should be going forward a case where we always start with a spectate. Just because even though this isn't really me playing, that 5 crystals, there's still 5 crystals, and anytime I'm going to spectate, I'm just going to put it in fast forward mode. Now for a game that says Miasma Caves, there is also an assumption here that there would be a smoke miasma in the caves. But yeah, with the exception of Terraria, there hasn't been anything that's been anywhere close to looking like a good Minecraft clone. This Mesmeratu, I think this is probably too much of a platformer for me. Plus it is fairly weird, and while I do like weird, this one kind of feels like it's just weird in several different ways for weirdness sake. Mexican train dominoes. I think I'll give this a little bit more time, but I also need to play Tabletop Simulator at some point and figure out what games are actually by default playable in a single player way. Because if you can play Mexican train dominoes and Tabletop Simulator on top of several other tabletop style games, then it's very possible I don't need to buy those kinds of games ever again, or even consider buying those kinds of games ever again. Let's see. So that was completed, but it's not reset. So I could have gotten another 5 gems for that. I am also going to try to figure out how to make a Konami account if I haven't already made one, and get my cell phone version of this game to connect. That would be the ideal situation. Obviously, I wouldn't want to have to jump between two things. When linking with a different platform, use your Konami ID. If you do not have a Konami ID, you must create one using your email address. For me, details about refer to the about data transfers for notifications. So, notifications about data transfer. Let's see. When you begin a new game, press the collapse menu button on the right to the top screen to open menus. Select data transfers. You can link your data with a Konami ID to be used to set up data transfer, or with either the URL displayed on screen or the QR code. Interesting. So it seems like they're calling it data transfers when it's more just linking. Anyways, I guess I am going to leave this for more consideration so I can close that. Metallic Child here is a game that's rated very positively, so I'll probably put it on the wish list. Although it does feel a little weird, like a roguelike game. Let's see, roguelite core action, a skill, core action game. Kind of feels like it's a top-down twin-stick shooter more than anything else, or top-down twin-stick hack and slash. But people like it, so I'll put it on the wish list. And they seem to like it quite a bit for a game I don't recognize. Next we have Metal Unit, which, oddly very positive overall, but mixed reviewed lately. So what's the deal? Calling it an RPG roguelike, or roguelite. You have skin tight anime girl outfit. New content update. So why are people upset? See, February 2nd. A lot going on with a ton of systems, but it feels way too unfocused on being a side-scrolling platformer. And apparently the person stole assets, and so there's a controversy around here. Which is believable, certainly, because this art style here is a little bit off from this art style. This character here doesn't really have to match this pixel art style. This character could have been from anything. Yeah. Well, I think that's enough to remove it being confused as a game and not looking particularly good, and also being accused of theft. Metal Golem First Contact needs more time, or I could just remove it now, but I'll give it more time. Metal Dogs is still in early access, and I think this is more of a joke game than anything. but it is very positive as a joke game. So we'll leave that on the fall list. Metal Commando here is mixed reviewed. It's a Commando clone, so that can leave the fall list. We're getting rid of a lot of games on the fall list, actually. This fall list cleanup, now that we're just consistently always looking at least 5 games every stream, is working possibly better than it should. And this game, I don't know why I would have even had it in the fall list. Match 3 game to get to the center. I guess there might be something to that idea. Or to do a match 3 game where you're circling around the edge. So I'll give that a bit more time. Alright. With this barely taking 2 hours and 40 minutes, there's not a lot of reason for me to rerun my macro program. So I'm just going to scroll down my main Twitter feed, and then that's going to be it for this stream. And that will be that. It is possible starting these live streams early, at like early in the morning is too early. Maybe I should try to go a couple hours later. There's always an inconsistency with when I stream and when I sleep. Past week and a half in particular, I feel like I've barely slept for 4 hours in any group of naps I've taken. It does feel like I'm just falling asleep 2-3 times a day and then getting woken up or just waking up after 3 or 4 hours. It's been irritating to say the least. Let's see. So hopefully I can do a little bit better and try and work on my insomnia so that I can actually sleep for 8 hours straight and have actual good quality sleep. This is also, today or yesterday was like the first day that I stopped feeling incredibly like congested also. So, and I really haven't even coughed that much today. So maybe I'm finally starting to feel a little bit better. I am definitely not anticipating finding out that my RAM warranty won't be honored for some reason, or it expired. Like I don't even know what a good RAM manufacturer would have been 2 years ago or is now. But I'm dreading finding out that I'm going to end up having to replace that RAM, and hopefully not with the exact same I assume I can buy a different brand of RAM as long as I get the timings the same. That's really what you want. And a paired match. Probably wouldn't even need the timings the same, but it's probably safer to do that. But I'm also going to be upset if I realize that the RAM, I spent like $200 on RAM. I doubt I did. I may have spent $200 on 4 sticks of RAM. I doubt I spent $200 on 2 sticks of RAM and then bought another 2 sticks. But then there is also pretty high demand for old RAM also. So if I'm trying to buy DDR4 that was relatively old, the price may have gone up, not down. Although I kind of question that to be true. I don't think that much transition has happened, and DDR4 may still be very much what's normally getting sold for computers. But hopefully I can just get the warranty, because I already invested the money. Like, when building a new computer, you expect it to last a long time. I expect them to last at least 10 years, and that's in some capacity. I expect the equipment to last, and I've had really good luck with components lasting fairly long. Anyways, the stories we have here is Sony is teasing a breakthrough AI project created with the Gran Turismo studio Polyphony, which teasing something really doesn't mean anything. That whole Sony commercials that came out, just like advertising the PlayStation, feels like those commercials came out for not much of a reason. So yeah, I don't know what to say on that otherwise. It's just like those commercials came out, they didn't seem like they actually hinted at anything. What would be funny is if we looked at a bunch of those weird Sony commercials that came out a few months ago, and then all of a sudden it gets retranslated as a roadmap to acquisitions that potentially are going to happen. Anyways, moving on. Konami has also dropped Mason Greenwood from its football games. The Manchester United is being investigated over rape and assault allegations. So, as someone who doesn't follow soccer/football, I have heard nothing of this, but yeah, that seems like probably the thing to do. And then is some weird French article that's not going to help me in any way, is it? Because it's in French. That had a story, had something to do with, what was it? Let me bring up the translation. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other video game news from any of my other sources. Yeah, that French article is from a new interview with Jade Raymond on Haven Studio and their first project. It's coming to the PS5 and PC. The company has tripled in size. The first game has persistent and scalable evolving online environment, and the team wants to push the PS5 console and will collab with Cerny, which I assume Cerny is a video game company. Alright, well, that's where I'm going to leave this stream. I will probably play a little bit more of Yu-Gi-Oh! As I transfer it over to my cell phone and get the daily quests. But that's pretty much going to be it. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that helps me with my YouTube video. If you want to friend or follow me on any other social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. I've had 0 dropped frames today, by the way, as far as network trouble. So if I start having network trouble again, I know it's my ISP at that point. And then if you want to support me further as we wrap up here, you can friend me on Steam, or you can gift me a gift card or game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.